would have imagined that the 6'5" smooth operating point guard would have one of the most jaw-dropping stories the NBA has ever seen, to reaching his goal and then some, and at his age being one of the more so mature guards, to have one of the greatest NBA coaches ever always has great things to say about Dejounte. Murray's story from the infested streets to becoming the leader to the San Antonio Spurs is, as he's described it, truly a blessing. This is the story on how Dejounte Murray completely changed his life for the better and triumphed his way to the NBA. Dejounte Murray was born on September 19, 1996 in Seattle, Washington. And he would grow up in the South End, and growing up, everyone called him Baby Boy, as that was the nickname given to him by his grandmother. And till this day, everyone that knew him before the NBA still calls him that. But as a kid, with his mother being in and out of prison and his father nowhere to be found, Dejounte became heavily involved in the streets, seeking any type of guidance he could find. And even as a child, it was almost as if he was living a every man's for themselves type life. He would find himself doing illegal activity and found himself arrested for the first time by the age of just 11 years old. And he didn't even think anything of it at the time, because those were the type of things he used to see on a day-to-day basis at the time. It was like he was immune to it, because that's all he knew. He wasn't the only one connected around the streets, because there were stories around his grandmother who was also involved around the streets and being affiliated with gangs. It was clear that there was a cycle going around, being passed from generations on down. Dejounte would move from apartment to the next, from house to hotels, to sleeping on couches and sofas. And just after the 9th grade, Dejounte would find his way back in juvenile. And while in juvenile, Dejounte would receive a call from someone saying that a large amount of his friends were getting locked up left and right. And by the time Dejounte came home from juvenile, there was only 2 of his friends left. And that led Murray to sit down with his uncle to where he would go and explain to him saying, jail isn't for me. And I know if I keep going down this road, I was either going to be dead or in prison. And this was right around the same time NBA legend Jamal Crawford stepped in and would take him under his wing and encourage Murray to stay in school and to go to the gym and to leave the streets alone. That just goes to show how well-rounded of a person Jamal Crawford was and how passionate he was towards the youth. That he had time while being in the NBA on that busy schedule to be there for Dejounte. Murray would then attend Rainier Beach High School in Seattle, Washington, the same school that players like Kevin Porter Jr., Nate Robinson, and Jamal Crawford would attend. And by now, Dejounte was in a somewhat better position, living with his uncle. This is where his work ethic started to increase significantly, and he would slowly start making a name for himself, especially at the Jamal Crawford Pro-Am Leagues, where he would play against NBA players like Chris Paul. Dejounte would go to win a state championship at Rainier Beach while averaging 23 points and 14 rebounds a game. He even recorded a 52.20 rebound performance. And by the end of his senior season, he would go on to be named Mr. Basketball for the state of Washington, with top schools around the country wanting Dejounte to join their program, like USC, Oregon, Washington, and Gonzaga. The 4-star recruit would then sign the letter of intent to play basketball at the University of Washington, where he would also team up with freshman 4-star recruit Marquise Chris. But for his freshman season, he managed to put up 16 points and 4 assists per game. He just showed great potential. And with this 6'10" God-given wingspan, It allowed him to be one of the more so better defenders in college basketball. He would only manage to shoot 29% from 3, but really NBA scouts saw right through that percentage, as they knew what type of player he could become. And after his one and done season with Washington, he would enter the 2016 NBA draft, where he did fall out of the lottery to the San Antonio Spurs with the 29th pick. And around this time, it was almost as if he was drafted in the perfect situation, because Tim Duncan and Tony Parker were towards the tail ends of their career, and the San Antonio Spurs were going to be in need of a new point guard very soon. And going into his rookie season, right off the bat, he showcased his tremendous ability to play defense even with his role being limited. And although he did show some signs of not having a promising offensive game, it was almost as if his defense and athleticism outweighed his offensive flaws at the time. But when Tony Parker got injured, he would get playing time. But not just any playing time, he would get playing time as a rookie in Game 3 of the conference semifinals against the Houston Rockets, and would also lead his team to the conference finals, where they did end up losing to the Warriors. But in just his second season in the NBA, he would actually become the youngest player ever to make an all-defensive team, as he averaged 8 points a game, but still needing to polish up that jumper. And here's where things would start to go left, because during the 2018-19 season, Murray would unfortunately tear his ACL during the preseason, which caused him to miss the entire year. And despite his ACL injury, Murray knew he couldn't stop there. He truly locked in and took it upon himself to come back stronger and sharper. And as he came back from his ACL injury, bro turned it up a couple notches, solidifying his role as the team's leader and floor general. It was clear as day that he was, and still is, the organization's franchise piece. His shooting form would improve, and he also earned himself a 4-year extension, while averaging 11 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. He knew where his spots were now, and overall just had a better knack for his shot selection, shooting 47% from the field and 80% from the free throw line. He really did take control and take action, and leading by example, and doing the things that at times maybe got unappreciated, like sacrificing his body for those 50-50 balls, or being just flat out scrappy, as he was able to get 2 steals per game and adding on 188 deflections for the season. It was just crazy to see that a player with such an offensive load could still carry the defensive role, being his team's defensive anchor. That's just something you don't see a whole lot of nowadays. You could just tell and see that learning from Tony Parker before he retired helped Dejounte get a better feel for the game. And fast forward to the current 2021-22 season, where Dejounte managed to put up an outstanding 21 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists per game. But hasn't stopped there. Murray has become this year's steals leader. And although this year him and his team probably didn't go as far as they wanted to, just barely falling short of making the playoffs, it was obviously noticeable that this year was Dejounte's breakout season, with him even being able to accomplish becoming a first-time All-Star, as it was truly well-deserved, as he felt like he actually belonged there. And recently, Dejounte tweeted saying, 10 years ago, I was in juvenile. In that whole month I was in there, I told the guards, I'ma get out and change my life and never come back. And they told me I will be right back. 10 years later, them same guards asking for pictures and my autograph. Look at God.
I'm blessed. I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I believe in God. I work hard. I believe in being a great person, and you'll get anything you wish for in this life. So, I'm just enjoying the moment.
And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Dejounte Murray story.